So, Steve, moving towards the future, how has been your, what is the current status of your journey now? How are you feeling and what do you expect?
After September, once I started and I get back into the gym and I started exercising, I really pushed hard. You know, after we spoke, I told you I was going to push hard, and you said, "Yeah, there's no reason why you can't." My blood, every time I went to you, you told me how good my blood tests were. You said everything was perfect. So I'd go to the gym. I did an hour of yoga every day. Well, no, not every day. Every time I went, I'd go 5 days a week, and then I'd do an hour or two of working out, depending on what I was working out that day. And then I do aerobics, and I got to where I was about 222 pounds. So I put on 30 pounds of muscle mass. And my waistline kept getting smaller, which was interesting. I didn't think it'd get any smaller than it was in September. And as a matter of fact, the suit I had on is a suit I bought in the 80s, right? And so that was pretty good. And I put 30 pounds back on, and in February, I called you up, actually, when I saw you, I told you I went back to work. So I started work in February, back in the building trades, which is pretty strenuous. It's on my feet 8 hours a day, constantly, physical. I don't hang the sheetrock like I used to and that I love to do, but I'm doing all other facets of the building trade. We do commercial buildings. We build a lot of buildings like this. And I worked February right up until last week. And we just finished 3 big jobs. And I'll tell you what, a couple days ago, it got beautiful out. And today and yesterday, I felt as good as I felt in years.
That's
so
nice.
It feels, I don't even feel like there's any cancer in me. The only issue I have, of course, is with the inferior vena cava, which was damaged in the operation, which is separate. But other than that, I feel amazing. And last couple of days, I went to the beach, and I went up north, up into New Hampshire, and went up to the beaches, and it was nice.
Yeah, because
it's temperature
went up to 80. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I used to hike. I've been in almost every national park in the country. I've been in every state twice. And I've done a lot of the big hikes, and I've done been out in the woods a lot. And it was very important to me to be able to get back out there. And I've actually done some small hikes, but the endurance is something I need to work on. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Steve's journey, does it reflect the standard patient experience? I think you definitely had a high-risk disease, but, because of the novel agents like cabozantinib or any other agents, we do not know what is coming in the future. But basically, with the modern therapeutics, we are able to understand some of the molecular markers of cancer, especially understanding the angiogenesis pathway, the mTOR pathway, as well as the altered immune mechanism. And I do think that we definitely have a bright future, and you have done so beautifully, over the past 1 year, 4 months, with this drug itself. And look at you, you're looking great, actually.
Thank you.
And I think it's and I do think that looking at your success, I have used this drug on quite a number of patients, and I've seen very good results. And I think you were the poster child, I think, for me.
Does everybody else have are they performing like I am?
I mean, they did not have such an aggressive disease, so they look that they are doing well. Yes. Like you were the first one, and they've just started, some of them. So yes, they're doing very well, actually.
Good.
So I'm very happy, actually, with and you motivated me to make sure that the other patients are also doing better.
10 years ago, how often did something like this happen? Somebody get cured like this?
So
I never asked you this.
Actually, I won't say it's a cure, but control of the disease.
Right.
So basically, 10 years ago, there was only one drug, and it has been there for such a long time. But a lot of patients used to progress, and we were able to go back to find out why did they progress, and looking at newer drugs.
Did they progress as quickly as I did? A year?
Yes, yes. At that point in time, if you had got like 9 months, 11 months, you had a winner.
Right.
But you did one of the best actually, more than a year. So definitely this cabozantinib was able to target some of the resistant mechanism which you see with other tyrosine kinase inhibitor like Sutent, wherein you could see activation of the AXL, MET, which cabozantinib was able to block them. And that's why we were able to get more than 1 year of response.
It was almost, if you think about it, it was 6 months. I mean, my best results were March to September, right?
Yeah, but you have such an aggressive disease, widespread. So, you're melting that tumor. So that's important for us. And then you want to stabilize it. So that's what we were trying to do for him.
And now it's stabilized.
Now it is stabilized. The last
and I'm
CAT
the miracle
scan.
Man. I have a funny side note. My boss, when I went back to work in February, he introduced me to everybody as stage 4. So he'd say, like, hey, John, this is stage 4. And I go, no, you can't call me that anymore. I'm Miracle Man, So now there's all these people that don't know my real name. They call me stage 4, which that's the truth too.
So, we always ask this question, how do patients need to be proactive in finding out information? And I'm sure you must be looking into the internet.
Yes.
And joining some kidney awareness group. Have you done that to find out more information?
No groups, but my whole life, I read a lot. I mean, I read a lot. And when I was in college as a youngster, back in the 70s, I took genetics and human anatomy, physiology, and then I went back to college. I took them again, and I've taken a lot of psychology courses, and I've read a lot of books, and I actually read a book in the 80s called Miracle Cures. And it was people who cured miraculously. And so I learned way back then about the power of thinking. So I was like prepping myself way back then for now. And having the internet now, I mean, who would have thought 30 years ago that we'd have the power we do at our fingertips? So anytime we spoke or every time I'd leave the office, I would go home and I would Google stuff. So I was constantly online reading. So and my sister, every time I get back to home, my sister would be on the computer and she'd be saying, so she'd tell me what would happen, in our meetings, because it was right at instant fingertips. So I would go and I would Google stuff as we saw stuff that we weren't sure about. So just having the internet at somebody's fingertips, do yourself a favor, read everything. Read as much as you can. Absolutely.
This is such an impressive story. Definitely it is. I feel so moved actually listening to you. And, I've been your doctor treating you, so that's good. But, I think, what would be your take-home message, your closing thought, to patients, caregivers about your disease?
I've covered a lot of it already. My takeaway is to never be a victim. From the minute you are diagnosed with anything, it doesn't matter what it is, be positive, be proactive, work hard. There were days when I couldn't eat or drink, and I used some mental tricks. And the easiest one for me would be all I had to do was picture my son in my mind, and I would say, how is this going to help my relationship with my son? And that would make me drink that water, because I knew how important water was to survival. And there were days when I didn't want to drink water. And eating, there's no flavor to food when you're sick, and I would force myself to eat. And I would use every trick in the book to just do everything that's necessary. Listen to the doctors. And seriously, read everything about whatever it is you have, especially cancer. Yeah. It's there's a lot of information.
Yeah, because I've seen the healthcare providers and the team. They work tirelessly to make sure to help patients in this stressful environment. And I think as long as we have the participation of patient and their families in our decision-making process, we can really move forwards into getting better treatment options for patients with kidney cancer. Thank you so much for joining Stephen and myself with Cure Expert Connection in the diagnosis and treatment of renal cell cancer.